George Kambosos, is he a Hall of Fame boxer? Might be a little bit different than you think. Let's get into this video. So George Kambosos is a boxer, obviously, who had a legendary moment in 2021, November, a few days after Thanksgiving in the U.S., beats Teofimo Lopez, knocks him down, gives a great speech, comes undisputed champion in my world. Some people don't believe that the belts he had were undisputed because Devin Haney had a form of a WBC title, but that's neither here nor there. I think that Teofimo was undisputed. I think he was undisputed, and I think Devin Haney was undisputed. I think it's kind of nerd rhetoric when people get into all that stuff because whatever, we can get into that another date. The bigger question for me is, like, Kambosos had no real meaningful wins outside of it, major marquee wins. He had trouble in certain fights with movers who were not what I'd call Hall of Fame boxers at a certain level. But this is where I want people to think about the Kambosos argument. We're going to get to a point in, let's say, 20 years. So 20 years from now. So 20 years from now, that'll be 60 years from the 80s. 60 years, right? So then young people will be 40 years removed from the Ray Leonards and the Marvin Haglers and all those guys. So that's going to be like the Rocky Marciano and the Joe Lewises of maybe today, or even like older fights. People aren't going to really care, and the footage is going to look stupid, and people will watch it, but it's going to mostly be old men or old people talking about these fights, and whoever watches them, right? But this is where it gets interesting, right? Is at some point, these young fighters are going to be the only people on the list, or the majority of the people, and the voters aren't going to be as familiar with those fighters from the 80s and the 90s. And what is the emotional connection a guy George Kambosos had with the fans? Arturo Gatti, what's his legacy, right? I think he had a good legacy, but he gave his legacy as wars and tough fights. I think people underestimate the fact that people are holding boxing in the Hall of Fame to a different standard. And quite simply, over the last 10 to 15 years, people haven't fought at a Hall of Fame standard. And if that trend continues, the Hall of Fame is either going to have to induct less people, or some people that people don't think are Hall of Famers are going to get in more and more. Historians are very picky about who gets in. But as time goes on, I'm telling you, those ballots are going to look stranger and stranger for those real picky people. So personally, I don't think Kambosos is a Hall of Famer, but I think as time goes on, his name will be in the ballot. People will be surprised at what those ballots look like